Well, my first guests are joining me in studio, two executives of a company called Maytech Corporation, stock symbols MTCH. Mary Beth Michelli is the Chief Operating Officer of the company, and the CEO of the company is Mr. Bob Bernstein. Folks, welcome to Money TV.
Thank you.
Very nice to be here.
Now, Bob, Maytech Corporation describes itself as a company which creates technologies, the application of which monitors metal fatigue in all kinds of structures. Can you give us a general overview of the company?
Yes, we started this company about 24 years ago with a device that was given to us from the University of Pennsylvania, and that was our beginning with learning what metal fatigue was all about. And when you were a child, if you took a paper clip and stretched it out and tried to break it, you couldn't, but if you bent it back and forth a number of times, it would break at a certain point, and that would be the structural use of the piece of metal. And that's kind of similar to what happens on a bridge when a truck goes over. Each time it goes over, it creates a certain tiny percentage of the fatigue life of the structure. So we've been developing this technology for a number of years. We've been supported by the federal government. We spent about $8 million a number of years ago on airframes, and we reached a pretty good point, but still have some more research to do on that. And then we discovered that the major problem in the world was the metal bridge inventory. And we started to concentrate on that, and about 2 years ago, we had our technology validated by Rockwell Scientific. And then, after some more research and development, we went into the real world and did real beta tests in the real world. And we're now marketing the technology, and we're on a good growth path. And it's not a matter of bad engineering on the bridges, it's a matter of the age of the bridges in the world. The average age of bridges in the United States is over 50 years.
I see.
So that's basically where we are, and we have the only device in the world that finds growing cracks in bridges.
It's really kind of interesting, Mary Beth, and I remember one time when you folks were on the program, you told me that the status quo for inspecting metal bridges is that some guy in a hard hat goes to the bottom and looks up with a pair of binoculars.
Yes, the status quo is really visual inspection, which the Federal Highway Administration has even done a study that says is wrong with condition ratings over 56% of the time and misses the fatigue cracks over 90% of the time.
Now, we saw a couple of disasters 24 months ago or so, one in Minnesota, one over in Asia, where bridges just collapsed. Now, had your monitoring system been in place on those bridges, could you have foretold those disasters to some degree?
Well, what fatigue cracks really tell you is that something else is wrong on the bridge. They indicate that there's another problem, that the bridge isn't behaving how it should behave. What our technology probably would have told them is that they have growing cracks on their bridges, depending on the structure itself. And at that point, the owner may choose then to close the bridge if they know that they have growing fatigue cracks on their bridge. And at that point, you know, disasters may be averted. The real thing is that up until this point, up until the EFS, bridge owners never had that information at all. And so really, they had to make an educated guess on whether or not to keep bridges open and whether to keep traffic on them.
Very interesting. Now, Bob, I noticed in a press release not too long ago that your company had announced a joint presentation with Northrop Grumman. I mean, tell us about your relationship with Northrop.
Yes, we met Northrop Grumman several months ago, and we're discussing this technology. It kind of began a number of years ago when we were doing research with them on what was called the SIPS program, Structural Integrity, etc. And there were 4 technologies, and we worked on it for several years. But coincidentally, we met some other people, and there's a serious interest on both sides that there could be a good collaboration. The starting point was several meetings that we had with them in New York with a potential user of our technology, and then Mary Beth made a presentation at the Bridge Conference in Pittsburgh, which is a very substantial annual, is it annual or biannual? Annual conference, and they were jointly with us on that presentation. So we're in further discussions with them, and I feel optimistic that there will be a serious relationship.
Well, it's very interesting, Mary Beth. Of course, you know, the oldest adage in the world is you judge by the company you keep. Northrop Grumman's pretty good company to be keeping. How was your presentation received by the attendees?
It was actually very well received. Northrop was there to talk about their Sensor Information Systems program, the SIS program, which is basically going to take health monitoring sensors and combine them with environmental sensors, security sensors, and put them all onto one platform so that you can then look at them from a command center or a control center where you can actually monitor your bridges remotely. And the EFS is really one of the first sensors that they're looking at for this SIS program, for the health monitoring portion of it. We had about 40 people in the audience, and they're very interested. We had a lot of consulting engineers as well as state DOT bridge owners as well as other bridge owners that were there. And we had a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. We had a lot of interaction afterwards. We also had TV and newspaper coverage in the Pittsburgh area.
That's just remarkable. Once again, Maytech Corporation, stock symbols MTCH. Give us a call for more information, 888-259-4449. Mary Beth, municipal, state, federal governments, they're desperately trying to save cash. How does that affect your business?
Well, I mean, realistically, it affects everybody's business. The good news in the infrastructure industry is that the stimulus package money has now gotten to the states and is starting to be rolled out. And that frees up money for other projects that had been on hold for a long time because of the economy. Really, we have officials in many states that are starting to see the big picture, that we need to use money more efficiently rather than just keep spending money and hoping the problem's going to go away. We actually worked with some numbers from the state of Pennsylvania. We did our own study, and we showed that with the EFS, we can ultimately save the state over $100 million annually in bridge management funds.
Now, Bob, you and I were in a conference call just the other day, and one thing you said that stuck with me is you have no competition. What have you done to protect your intellectual property?
Well, our technology is patented worldwide, and there's just nothing like it in the world. And you know, every week or so I ask Mary Beth, is there anything that can do what we can do, and I get the same answer all the time. And it's just one of those things. There's because of the nature of metal fatigue, the nature of bridges, and the nature of our technology, there's nothing like it. And it's, as I said, worldwide patented, and of course we have safety on the software and so on and so forth. So it's, we're very careful in that regard.
Folks, we've got about a minute and a half left. I did want to ask you about your revenue generation. Mary Beth, how's that generated? Is it licensing? Do you sell the system outright? How does that work? It's
actually a combination of both. We are actually selling the systems to engineering firms who already work with the DOTs, but we're also licensing the software to them. So there's a recurring revenue stream from not only the sensors and the equipment, but also from licensing the software. We're currently providing the service as well as an additional revenue stream.
Just a fascinating technology. Bob, why is this a good time right now for folks to take a closer look at Maytech?
Well, I think that Obama's infrastructure interest, as well as other people in Washington, D.C. that we're pretty close to, is very, very serious. CNBC about a month ago had an hour with Governor Rendell, Schwarzenegger, and Mayor Bloomberg. On the History Channel the other night was Governor Rendell. And it's just, again, it's not bad engineering, it's the average age of the bridge, and this is the time to do it. And our cost savings is tremendous, and life savings is tremendous.
Once again, Maytech Corporation, MTCH is their stock symbol. Folks, we're initiating coverage of the company. I'm so excited to hear the developments as we watch you over the next several months. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for allowing us.